Streaming only on Peacock.
John Wayne Gacy killed 32.
Straight from the killer's mouth.
They want you to believe that I alone committed these murders.
The new gripping 6-part documentary series, John Wayne Gacy, Devil in Disguise. All episodes streaming now, only on Peacock.
With Allagash White now available in 12 packs, no matter if your next adventure sounds like this, onward, or like this, you can count us in. Allagash Brewing Company. From Maine, with love. Must be 21 years or older. Please drink responsibly.
Yeah, the NBA draft is tonight. I know it. In this market this year, it doesn't feel nearly as big. The Jazz have one pick. It's at number 30 this year. And if we were betting, to be very honest, they're probably not selecting at that pick. They're more worried about what's happening in about 3 days. That's when NBA free agency begins, and that's when Ryan Smith's got to get out the checkbook with Justin Zanuck and decide how much money he's going to offer Mike Conley to try to come back. But there is a draft tonight, and for the next hour, we'll talk about the NBA draft. We'll talk about free agency, which is coming up in a few days, and we'll talk about some other stuff as well right here on the Bill Riley Show. In fact, this first hour of the show is dedicated to it. Our guy Gordy Chiesa coming in today. Now, normally Gordy and I do a couple of hours on draft night around the draft and around all the ESPN stuff, but we kind of decided this year odds are the Jazz aren't even going to pick tonight. And our friends at ESPN do a great job with the draft coverage. So Gordy and I are going to sit back tonight, keep an eye on the draft, keep an eye on the Olympics, and hope that by next year the Jazz maybe are drafting someplace, not in the lottery, but maybe someplace where we could talk a little draft. Gord, how are you?
Bill, I'm doing fine. Thanks for the invite.
Good to have you in today. So you and I have agreed on this. It's not going to be probably a wild night here in Salt Lake City. In fact, the Jazz aren't even having a draft party. That's really what you need to know. Usually the Jazz invite people down, come on down, we're going to have a good time. The fact that they're not even having a draft party tonight kind of tells you how they feel about the draft, and that's okay. Because the fact of the matter is, there's nobody the Jazz could draft tonight at number 30 or anywhere in the second round that would be impactful difference makers for them next year or the year after, which is the window they're in for being a contender in the West, right?
That is correct, absolutely. So the Jazz point of view, their real offseason starts on Sunday when the free agency frenzy starts, and then next Friday, the 6th, they can actually sign players. And that's when next week's going to be an amazing 6 days of back and forth talking with different teams and agents as far as getting the right guy for your group. The Jazz right now, best record in basketball last year. Unfortunately, got knocked out in the second round, 4-2. So they're an excellent team. So how did the Jazz get better? And the way the Jazz get better, one, is to resign Mike Conley, and the second thing is you've got to figure out. You've got to improve your athleticism as far as on the wing defense, whether it's single or plural guys. You can't come back with the exact same only shooting group.
Yeah, we'll get to some of that free agency stuff and some potential Jazz moves. And if you listen to some of the rumors out there are some guys that might be up for trade or movement ability. The key is it's very not very often in sports that you can stand put and if you didn't win at all, stand pat and try and run it back and be better. So we'll get into some of that in a minute. What were the days like back in the day in the war room on draft day? You guys had done all your work. You were the guy that led a lot of the workouts when the guys would come into town, guys like Tony Parker when he would come into town and many of the others. You led that stuff. You gave all the information, passed it along to Kevin O'Connor and Walt Perrin and all those guys. So what were you usually doing on draft night? Were you at home, Gordy? Were you down at the facility? What were you doing on draft night?
In the war room. We used to get there at 6:30 in the morning, the morning of the draft. Because remember, it's 8:30 back east. And remember, besides the draft / trades.
Right.
So a lot of times there's trades as we speak right now as far as people talking about it, and it'll be announced during the draft. So in the day of a draft, all the coaches would be in the draft room all just talking about players in case so-and-so called us on the phone. Bill, it's the most amazing thing about being a general manager or decision maker. You're ready to draft somebody, but literally before 5 minutes, someone calls you on the phone and proposes a trade. So you've got to be able to analyze and pivot and make a split-second decision of what's going on. So that was often discussed that morning because our board is already done already. In other words, for the listeners right now, every team has in a war room a draft board, 1 through 60, about how they think that a team is going to take, and then the next part of the draft board is in the our order. So it's two different boards. Our order, how we'd pick, but also how we think the opposing teams might pick.
So your value board, right?
Very much.
You had your value. Was it 1 through 60? Was it 1 through 80? 1 through 100? How far did your value board go down? Because you looked at more than 60 players,
Very
right?
much, yeah. The value board was 1 through 75.
Okay.
Because the next morning, it sounds again crazy, the process. Next morning, you're talking to people that were undrafted. So you have to on your board. Let's try to get this guy to come to our summer league team. So it's absolutely intense. It is very, very thorough. And in what a lot of teams, they literally panic during the draft. It's all the wrong reasons. You've got to stay true to your draft board.
How active, how
True.
How involved was Larry Miller on draft night? We know Larry is a very hands-on guy. Was he sitting in the war room? Was he involved in discussions in the war room? Was he not even in the war room? What was Larry on draft night?
He was not there until late in the afternoon.
Okay.
So he was not involved in the draft. Not at all. And the reason why is because, again, is that like all teams, is that the people and the personnel, they saw these guys play all the time. So they have an idea, and they have the biggest input. And then the coaches have the biggest input by far as trades and free agency. Because no one can tell me an NBA coach doesn't know the guys in the league who's undervalued. As I always say this all the time, Bill, don't tell me a guy after he's good why he's good. Tell me before you know about him why he's good. And that's the difference right now.
That's what makes great scouts. Anybody can see it once they're out on the floor in the NBA and knocking it out. Everybody saw what Donovan Mitchell was. The Jazz saw him as, a lot of people saw him as a solid player at Louisville, and the Jazz saw something more when they saw him in workouts and other things. So you're absolutely right. Give me a night. You're in that war room for the better part of a decade. You're there for
16 years.
16 years. Give me a night where somebody fell to you guys that you couldn't believe it. Because John and Carl were already gone, or they were already drafted, they were already there. But give me 1 year when you guys were in a draft, when you were in the draft room, and somebody fell to you unexpectedly. One of those ones where everybody you're kind of looking around the room, going, "Is that guy going to be available to us when we pick in a few picks?" And then all of a sudden, the Jazz name is called, and you're surprised the guy is there. Can you remember a night like that?
Yeah, very much. 24, Andre Karolinko.
Okay.
Oh, Karolinko. Scott Layden, those guys were in Russia a lot of times over there.
Right.
Bill drinking native
vodka.
Vodka, absolutely. I mean, it sounds so. He's almost like spy stories where you're drinking. You're at a game drinking vodka, and you're watching 18-year-old young Karolinko play. And so when he slipped to 24, there was no doubt that they were going to take him, and that's what they did. They took him, and then we waited to get him, and then he developed into an all-star. So think about it. You're picking at 24, and later on becomes an all-star. That's the jackpot.
I think that was a year or two.
That was 1999.
I was about to say 2 years before I got here. Did you have him here in Salt Lake? Did you fly him in for anything, or did everything you did with Karolinko happen over there?
Happen over there.
Okay. Did you ever work him out? Or
No,
was that all Layden and those
No, it was
guys?
all Scott Layden. Absolutely. And they read it right. They absolutely read it right. And that was Scott Layden's last draft before going to the Knickerbockers.
All right, one other draft night question. Was there ever a guy you guys really wanted and he got snatched up just before you were there? Maybe you guys thought, we worked this guy out, we love this guy, we're pretty sure we're going to take this guy, and then maybe a couple of picks before you guys drafted, somebody else grabbed him, and it was somebody you guys absolutely loved and wanted.
No, there was not. No.
Really? Okay.
No, there was not.
Well, because you guys were always, when you were there, you were always drafting in that 20 to 30 range.
Absolutely.
You were way, way down, so it wasn't like you knew it was going to be a crapshoot on everybody anyway.
That is correct. Add to that. But we're maniacal about the second round.
Okay.
So I remember back in 1993 where we worked this guy out, and we liked him because his personality. And so we were able to get Brian Russell at 45 in 1993. Let's fast forward. So suddenly he developed. He was an inside player at Long Beach State. He worked hard at his game, at his craft. We developed him, and then suddenly, guess what happens? 3 years later, he's starting in the second year. He's starting. 3 years later, he's guarding Michael Jordan, and it's a second round draft pick at 45.
You could make a case that one of the great value picks the Jazz ever made was Paul Millsap, right?
Absolutely.
Because this is a guy that's still playing today. He played at an all-star level when he was here. He went on to be an all-star after he left. But where was Paul taken?
47 in 2006.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That was, what, the year after you left?
That's correct. Yeah. In 2005, I worked out Darren Williams and those guys. That was the great debate, Darren Williams and Chris Paul. So the Jazz took Williams at 3, Darren Williams, who was an all-star, who was an all-NBA player, and then Chris Paul at 4. I left about 2 weeks earlier to go to the Nets as the first assistant.
So walk us through that, because I loved the pick of Darren at the time. I always thought that his frame and his body, because he was a little bit bigger built at the time than Chris Paul, I felt like that would hold up better over the life of an NBA career. Obviously, we know the story of what happened, but take us inside the Jazz. Why ultimately, what was the discussion back and forth between Williams and Paul, and why did they ultimately settle on Williams?
Well, because of your point's right on, because of his overall body strength and Jazz basketball. So Darren Williams is really a smart player, and he was fast, open floor, and he was sturdy. And so the reason why they slightly lean towards Darren Williams, because of his body frame, he's more NBA ready. And then Chris Paul slipped at 5, and they both of them are all-stars. So think about it. And then the last guy I put was Felton from Carolina.
Yeah, Raymond Felton went 5, I think.
Yeah. So it was 3, 4, 5. And the 3 and 4 became all-stars, all-NBA players, and 5 of Felton had a modest career. So the Jazz read it right for what they needed. And then to think about the Jazz, that era between 2005 and 2011, that 6-year window, the Jazz reinvented themselves. Darren Williams, all-star, Carlos Boozer, absolutely.
Both were Olympians, too.
Olympians, absolutely. And then Mehmet Okur as far as the trade. And so I remember working Boozer out also. I mean, Carlos Boozer was a good player. He was a third All-NBA player as far as third team, and he was 20-10 in playoff games. I'm at, besides regular season, 20-10. And I remember Boozer saying to me, "Coach, are you gonna draft me?" That we worked him out 2 weeks earlier. We brought him back on a Monday. The draft was Thursday again. So he's one of the few guys we ever brought back twice to work out, to talk to. And then for a lot of reasons, the Jazz didn't draft Boozer. And then 1 year later, the Jazz re-signed him as a free agent.
I'm curious. We've talked about the Tony Parker story before. We don't need to go back over that again. Was there ever a guy that you worked out, and maybe you weren't super aware of him before the workout, but after the workout, you were like, holy moly, this guy's going to be a stud? You know, maybe he wasn't a household name. You know, when you're an All-American in college, everybody knows your name. But was there ever anybody that you worked out and you just, it was eye-opening, and then they went on to have a great career?
Well, again, we're picking always at 27, 28, 29. So those guys are more, the guys we picked most times were system players because the knockout talent was high in the draft. So during that era, it was all the guys that were picked, like, you know, later on, that became just system players, and they played well in the system.
Gordy's in here with us. It's draft night tonight. We will have full coverage of the NBA draft tonight, beginning at 6 o'clock, right after the drive here on ESPN 700. We'll dive into some Jazz stuff here in just a few minutes. There's really 3 names at the top of this year's draft. You know, some years there's 2, some years there's 1. Sometimes there's 5 or 6. This year it's really kind of 3. It's a good draft, but there's 3 guys that everybody's talked a lot about. Cade Cunningham, Jalen Green, and Evan Mobley. Cunningham at Oklahoma State. Jalen Green bypassed college last year. He played in the G League. And Evan Mobley, obviously, we knew a lot about because he played at USC. If you wanted to extend it out, maybe you would go 4 because Jalen Suggs, the point guard from Gonzaga, is there too. But give me the Gordy Chiesa big board. Give me your kind of your big board rankings of maybe the top 5, top 10. How do you put these guys in order?
Okay, here's number 10 for me.
Okay.
Moses Moody from Arkansas, who's a very talented player who's got his upside is absolutely tremendous. And what he give to a team, he'd give them ability to score the ball and to shoot over the top of defense. So I love him at 10. Number 9 is from UConn, James Bouknight, who again he's a major talent as far as be able to score the ball, and he can be able to create his own shot. And even though he's a high volume shooter, is that he reminds you of a little bit of a poor man's Devin Booker.
Okay.
All right. Number 8 from Tennessee, Keon Johnson. He's a 48-inch vertical jump. He's got a good all-around game. He's a floor runner dunker. The way he runs the floor. So I couldn't find an analogy as far as in present tense. But, Bill, what I thought about the way he plays running the floor and dunking on people's noggins was Corey Brewer.
Okay.
That's the way he plays. Number 8 from the number 7 from the G League. This guy has got talent. Jonathan Kuminga. He's only 18 years old. He's got some bounce to his game. He's a transition player. He averaged 19.4 points per game. And for the listeners right now on ESPN 700, what does it mean to G League Ignite? That was when the NBA 2 years ago started this program where they knew they wanted the high school kids to go to the G League. Some would get paid between $150,000 and $500,000 as a salary, and then 1 and 2 years later, depending on your age group, you're eligible to be in the draft. So there's 2 players in the top 7 from the G League Ignite team, which are coached by Brian Shaw this previous year, and Kuminga is one of them. He reminds you a little bit of a combination of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. The way he plays in transition. So again, remember, he's like a hybrid 3-4. The next guy I have Scotty Barnes, Florida.
Florida State.
Oh, I'm sorry, Florida State. Excuse me, Florida State. And so what I like about him is that his ability, again, he's versatile and he's very vocal. He's good out. He brings the ball up the floor, and he's really like a cerebral type player. The way analogy would be, he plays like Kyle Anderson.
Okay.
The way he plays. But he's very, very vocal, and he's got a really good all-around game.
He's a little more explosive than Kyle Anderson, isn't he?
He could be.
Yeah.
Could be. But I like the way his presence on the floor.
Gotcha.
Next one, 5, Baylor University. Davion Mitchell, 6'2".
Ah, you've got him at 5.
I got him at 5, yeah. Yeah. I have a leap of faith in him right now. He's really a great athlete. I call it stop and start. Gets the ball, stop and start in game. He reminds me a little bit of Kemba Walker. And defensively, he reminds me of Javar Carter from the Phoenix Suns, West Virginia, the way he plays. And he got some toughness. And again, most Baylor kids, University, we saw them play in the NCAA. They won the championship. Those guys are tough. All right, 4, Jalen Suggs from Gonzaga. Big-time competitor, point guard, excellent high-level talent, athleticism, clutch shooter. He reminds you of a combination of Russell Westbrook and Chauncey Billups, the way he plays the game. And then the third pick of the draft should be Evan Mobley, 7-footer, got very good feet, athletic, highly skilled, he's long. Bill, he reminds you of a combination of John Collins of the Atlanta Hawks and Jaren Jackson of the the Memphis Grizzlies. Shot blocker inside. And add to that, again, I couldn't find an analogy in the present tense, so I had to go back to yesterday for a second. He blocks shots like Marcus Camby.
Okay.
That long athletic length. And the last 2 right now, both these guys should be stars in the NBA. Jalen Green, again, from the G League Ignite. He's only 19 years old. Remember, most of these guys are either 18, 19, or 20. Like, they're so young. Is that this guy has got Jalen Green. He's a shot creator. He's a high-level talent. He reminds you of a combination of Zach LaVine and Bradley Beal.
Okay.
And then number 1 guy that it's consensus right now, he's got a tremendous all-around presence and game. The Pistons should take him. And number 1 is Cade Cunningham from Oklahoma State. And that what I like about him is that he's a combination of so many guys on perimeter, but he knows how to play, how to get guys involved. He's got an unbelievable all-around game. He reminds me of a cerebral, athletic Paul George.
Okay.
That's my top 10.
So Cunningham, Green, Mobley, Suggs are your top 4 right there. And then number 5, you had
Mitchell.
Davion Mitchell. Here's a question for you. If the NBA had its druthers, if it had its choice, and these kids are going to be one-and-done kids, would the NBA rather have these kids go to the G League or go to a year of high-level college basketball?
G League.
Really?
Yeah, because you're playing against older people also. Yeah, older people as far as...
You're going to get a better read on these kids playing in the G League than playing for Duke or Kansas or UCLA?
Because there's zone defense also.
Okay.
Yeah, because he plays zone. Remember, it's the most amazing thing. Basketball is basketball. I get it. However, college basketball, even though we love it. It's great, college basketball. It's not the NBA.
No.
And so it is a different game.
And it's not the G League.
No, it's not. Absolutely not. The G League is absolutely underrated. Now, there's 3 leagues in the world. NBA is number 1. Number 2 now is the G League. And number 3 is Spain, ACB League.
Yep.
Those are the top 3 leagues in the world. Now, there's other great players that might play in other leagues, but those are the top 3. So when you see the metrics and the optics of playing against a so-and-so over a period of time, meaning a year, you have a much more decision-making. It's more valid.
Here, and this is me being a basketball fan in general, but specifically a college basketball fan. With the G League's growth and the NBA really funding the G League, I would really like to see college basketball go to the college baseball model. 3. I'd say to me it's 3. To me, if you're going to commit to a school, you commit for 3 years. But hey, we've got an option for you. If you love playing basketball and you have no desire to go to class, I don't want you to go to class. I don't want you to do something you don't want to do. Come play in the G League. In baseball, you don't have to go play college baseball. You can go play minor league baseball, and you can base your salary based upon where you are. You know, the NBA is going to tell you, you're not Jalen Green. We're not going to pay you $500,000 this year. We think you're a good player. We're going to pay you $50,000. So you can take our $50,000 paycheck this year and maybe next year, or you could go to college for 3 years and hone your skills there and get a little bit of an education. It's your call. But to me, that would be good for the kids because I want the kids to have a choice. I don't think you should be forced. They don't force tennis players and golfers that are prodigies to go to college. But if you commit to go to college, I think that the commitment should be that the college gets you for 3 years. What do you think?
I agree. I absolutely agree.
Because I think basketball hasn't always been at this point, Gordy, but I think we're now at a point where the G League is well established. The NBA's got plenty of money. They're funding it, and kids now have a choice. Hey, if you hate school, great. You went for 12 years. You graduated high school. Go play pro basketball or go play overseas. But if you're going to go to college, the colleges are going to get you for 3 years. Baseball does it, and it works well with baseball.
Absolutely works for real.
And you're still going to be coached well most of the times. You're going to still be – because we're talking about kids that are the elite kids. The kids that would go to the G League are the elite kids that are going to get those rides to Kansas or Duke or UCLA or Kentucky, places like that. Or just go get coached and schooled and get your name, image, likeness now and make a little bit of money. But you're going to be, you're going to be a student for 3 years. Or – go play in the G League.
And that's what they've worked on with the NBA as far as doing that, and it's been successful. So the G League is absolutely, Bill, underrated.
So Gordy and I are going to talk a little bit about free agency coming back on the other side. Again, I know the draft is tonight. We'll have full coverage of the draft tonight beginning at 6. But to be very fair, I'll be surprised, and I think Gordy will be too, if the Jazz are drafting at number 30 tonight. And if they do, it might be somebody like the old days. It might be somebody that they sign in store. Could be an overseas player or something like that, but it's probably not going to be somebody that impacts the roster next year. What will be impacting the roster next year is free agency. And the Jazz are going to have a really, really tough decision. Well, I shouldn't say that. Ryan Smith is going to have a tough decision on how deep he wants to go into his pockets in the luxury territory to re-sign Mike Conley. Because I think for the right number, and I think Gordy would agree, Mike Conley will come back to play for the Utah Jazz. But the number's going to have to be right. We'll talk about that number and more coming up. But before we go to break, we're going to do this throughout the day today. We'll check in with our buddy Andrew Reinhardt over at Wasatch Medical Clinic. Andrew, how are things?
I am doing well. How are you today, Bill?
I'm doing terrific. So give our listeners an idea of what you guys are and what you do and specifically what you treat at Wasatch Medical.
Well, we treat erectile dysfunction, but we do it in a different manner than what a lot of men are used to, which is, of course, the pill. We use at Wasatch Medical a cutting-edge technology that opens up and regrows blood vessels with pressure waves. We have significant science now showing this is the new standard of care for erectile dysfunction. It's totally safe. It's highly effective. And bottom line, helping a lot of couples get back to more normal function in the bedroom without the use of pills.
Well, what makes acoustic wave therapy so effective?
Well, similar to breaking down a muscle in the gym, we're repairing the blood vessels and building them up, essentially. And the main attraction is there's no side effects, there's no recovery time or pain. When it comes to the pill, guys are guessing a lot. When will it work? If it will work? What kind of headaches are coming the next day? This has been totally safe. The only thing you'll notice is more blood flow in the bedroom where you want it, when you want it.
So if it sounds good and somebody would like to get in line for this particular treatment that you guys offer and put away the pills, what's the first step?
The first step is a screening and approval with our doctor. He'll also conduct a blood flow ultrasound, and we do it for free. You'll get the very popular gift also, by the way, that produces powerful results in the bedroom. And new patients right now get blood work and testosterone free if you feel like that's a need. You can set this all up and leave your wallet at home. 801-901-8000. That's 801-901-8000.
Don't wait any longer, guys. Get on the road to recovery from ED and do it with Wasatch Medical Clinic. Give Andrew and his crew a call, 801-901-8000. Thanks, Andrew.
G3 Assistance through Virginia's community colleges is your pathway to a new future, helping those who qualify pay for school and train for the right career, right where you are, right now. Learn more at vccs.edu/G3.
Thank you.
All right, we'll check in throughout the day today at Wasatch Medical Clinic. Back on the other side with Gordy, who's in studio for another half hour, talking about the really important time for the Utah Jazz coming up in a few days. That's free agency. Right here on the Bill Riley Show on ESPN 700.
You're tuned to the Bill Riley Show from the My Buddy the Plumber studios of ESPN 700. Let's get back out to Bill on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700.
Is this a Gordy selection? Is this a Gordy choice? New Radicals?
Yes, New Radicals. I love it. Back in 2000. Back in 2000, Bill, when life was different back in 2000.
When you were working out the Sean Stevenson.
That's exactly right. Correct. And that was the first time we picked a high school kid out of high school. It's John Stevenson out of Upper.
If I'm not mistaken, that was the only time. Did the Jazz take another high school player? Jog my memory here. I don't think they chose another high school player, did they?
No.
No?
No. The one and only. He was a good player. He was good.
He turned into a good player. I mean, he was what sometimes high school play. He took a little while to develop to get there. He had to grow up a little bit, too. Sure. He had some off-the-court stuff. I remember he was supposed to go to Kansas.
That's exactly right.
He was committed to play for Roy Williams at Kansas, and he ended up coming to the NBA draft. But he had a few issues back in Fresno where he was from. But he turned – I want to say Deshaun Stevenson had himself about a 12 or 13-year career in the NBA, didn't he?
That is correct. Also, he was edgy, and that was as a compliment, that he was highly competitive. And once and that's exactly right, with very much, and with the Cavaliers, and that what he did for the Jazz is that he gave us another element of a young guy, young two-guard, small forward, and we developed him, and he became a solid NBA player. We liked him.
13 years in the NBA, and as James told us in our ears, he was an NBA champion with the Mavericks, or was it?
Mavericks.
Yeah, with Dallas Mavericks. So, yeah, he ended up playing for the Jazz for, 3.5 years?
Yes.
Because he got traded to Orlando.
With for Gordon Garasek.
Yeah, which he was okay. Gordon Garasek was okay. 3 years in Orlando, 3.5 years in Washington, 2 years in Dallas, played a year with the Nets. He was there the crazy year of the Nets. I think he was the year that Darren may have joined him.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was there, yes.
And then finished his career with the Atlanta Hawks at age 31. So he played from 19 to 31. And, you play 13 years in the league, Gordy. That's saying, I mean, you look at his career numbers, they don't jump out and pop at you, but 13 years is 13 years, and he made himself a pretty good living.
Yes, he did. He contributed to his team, and he played to win. That's a compliment. So he was the only Jazz high school player they ever drafted right out of the school board ranks.
Yep, that's exactly right. The Jazz will be drafting 30th tonight if they keep their pick. Draft begins at 6. Gordy and I kind of think they won't. That's why we're going to focus a little bit on free agency, which begins the afternoon of August 1st, right?
Yeah, Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday afternoon
Noon.
at about 3 or 4 o'clock Mountain Time.
Correct.
You can begin knocking on the doors of your free agents if you want to. Maybe Quinn Snyder and Justin Zanuck and Ryan Smith show up at Mike Conley's house, knock on the door, and present him a deal. Who knows? But that's the number one priority, Gordy. You and I have talked about it. We've known it. It's no real secret here. The real question is, can the Jazz be competitive enough with their offer? Because I think Mike knows what he's got here, and I think Mike knows if he comes back, this team can compete for a Western Conference title. But the real question is there somebody out there that's as good or better than the Jazz that can offer him more money? I'm not sure. And, what's the offer going to be from the Utah Jazz? Because as you said to me earlier, Mike Conley's got the leverage, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Leverage meaning that the way the rules are that the Jazz are over the salary cap but under the luxury tax. So they call it, the Jazz have his bird rights, which means that they can give him whatever they want and then to be concerned about the tax paying the following year. But which means that for the listeners right now, just the math of it, the next year's salary cap should be roughly $112 million, and luxury tax line is $136 million. So just say Conley, so the Jazz are over that already, $112 million. So the Jazz can re-sign Conley for, just for the narrative, approximately between $20 to $24 million. The question is for how many years. They'll put him into luxury tax territory, which will be the first time them doing it recently, so that the clock is on for them. As far as being repeated taxes, that's down the road. But right now, they have to resign Mike Conley. If they don't, the most they can offer a new player is the mid-level exception, which is roughly $9.5 million. So that's Bill's alluding to right now. Mike Conley has leverage. They can go over to resign him, but if they don't resign him, or he goes some other place, then the most you can give a new point guard is roughly $9.5 million.
And there's nobody you would sign for $9.5 million at the mid-level that would give you anything near what Mike Conley would, is there, Gordy?
The only guy possible.
Come on.
No, I'm just saying possible.
Come on.
Okay. Possible would be T.J. McConnell or Kendrick Nunn.
They're not going to give you what Mike Conley gives.
Okay. It's possible. See, the words I'm using again.
Those are both good. I mean, if you weren't to sign him and you had to sign either one of those guys, okay. But I don't think peak T.J. McConnell, even though he's probably 7 or 8 years younger than Mike Conley, is going to give you the same thing that a healthy Mike Conley would. And that's the other thing.
That's the reality.
That's the reality, and frankly, the Jazz have to do it. Don't you agree?
Yes.
They don't have a choice. So now you're going to find out. You're going to find out what kind of a relationship Mike Conley has with the front office, right?
Oh, very much also. And again, remember, they share the same agent.
As Donovan Mitchell, right?
And also Royce O'Neal. Ty Sullivan as CAA Sports. I mean, so it's all interwoven. Remember, for the listeners right now on ESPN 700, off-season is driven by the agents. The trading deadline in February is driven by the teams because their clients are playing. They're playing that night during the trading deadline. This is different. No one's playing right now. And so everything is – and remember, if you notice, the Jazz aren't talking because they can't. An NBA team cannot talk about their own free agent or other teams' free agents until August 1st publicly. So all the dialogue – what's the word, Bill? Speculative?
Yeah.
By the agents.
Yeah, they're leaking information to media members and going from there. The Jazz bench is going to look different next year, right? I mean, we know that. I mean, guys like Niang and Morgan and Ilyasova and Matt Thomas, those guys are likely all going to be washed away. And then we're going to see what happens from there. And there's a chance. We've heard guys, there's been some reports. Again, these are media reports, Gordy. Guys like Joe Ingles and maybe Royce O'Neal and a couple of other guys might be, potentially moved if the right deal came along.
Oh, absolutely. That, again, there was so visualized when the Jazz unfortunately lost to the Clippers. And that's who you play against, teams like that next year. So it wasn't lack of effort. There's no doubt. I mean, the Jazz play hard. And there's not lack of as far as the Jazz trying to share the ball. They do. So the question is, they got beat at the point of attack philosophically off the dribble, which means that there's a lack of overall, just generally speaking now, athleticism and/or quickness on perimeter. Because a lot of the game right now is a lot of drive and kick. So you have to address that. So if you have to give up slightly 1.5 shooters, slightly. Now I'm painting the picture as far as a big picture right now. You've got to do it. You cannot come. It's any sport. You cannot come back the following season with almost the exact same team. You cannot.
You can't stand pat.
Otherwise, you're a step behind.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's any business. Any business, whatever business you're in right now, if you're staying the same status quo, you're going to be a step behind very, very shortly. And the Jazz know that. So they got exposed during the playoffs, and now they're going to try to remedy that by getting more type players. So if you had to trade for somebody or a sign-in trade for somebody, that you would try to do. So, Bill, here's just some quick names of defensive wing guys that could be out there. One would be Torrey Craig from the Phoenix Suns. Next one would be from the Raptors, Gary Trent. Even though they traded for him in the middle of a deception, we'll see how it plays out. And the third guy could be out there is Norman Powell. Was it three guys?
I love Norman Powell.
Right.
I loved Norman Powell at UCLA when he was there. He didn't get the headlines others did. I like him an awful lot. I don't mind any of those three guys, Gordy, to be very fair. If you're going to shake it up a little bit and change the dynamic just a little bit, all three of those guys would be positive additions to the Utah Jazz.
And they can shoot some. And then the two fallback guys where everything falls apart, where you thought you're going to get so-and-so. So these two fallback names are Kent Bazemore and E'Twaun Moore. As far as Bill, fallback. In other words, it's August 17th, all right? I know, and suddenly things didn't work out. So-and-so signed with so-and-so, and you keep going for it. So then you still improve yourself slightly and save most of your money for a rainy day then. So you give these guys a 1-year contract. And, Bill, 1-year contracts with fallback players, by the way, Bill, we're engaged. We're not married. 1 year, you're out of the contract.
So as we talk about Mike Conley, and again, everything is speculative right now, but if you had to hazard a guess, would you lean more toward Conley returning or leaving the Utah Jazz based on conversations you've had with people and information you've read?
Returning with the Jazz. The only team that could sign him as far as because they have space for him. And again, they might not have. It's always possible you could renounce players, which means that you give up their rights. And as far as all their slots, as far as in the salary cap, could be the Dallas Mavericks. So the Mavericks possibly could sign Mike Conley. They could.
In your opinion, who's closer to winning a conference championship right now, the Jazz or the Mavericks?
Jazz.
Okay.
They have more overall talent.
They don't have a star like Luka Doncic, but they've got more overall talent, right?
Very much. And so, example, Doncic is the quasi, almost like point guard for Dallas Mavericks, but they know that, guess what happens, Bill? In the playoffs, he gets worn out. See, visually, Doncic in the playoffs, he has the ball literally almost the whole game, which is good for him. I get it. But eventually what? The mental stress in a playoff game. And that's Donovan Mitchell sometimes, where Donovan, that guy is an unbelievable talented player, but you could see where there's so much mental focus and physical taxing on his body. That's when you make sometimes irrational decisions, even though you have great intentions. So you need help. So most NBA players, as great as they are, they need help as far as in playoff type atmosphere.
All right, you've said that you think Conley comes back to the Jazz. That slot is occupied. I've told you I think it's going to be 2 years, $24 million per. That's a big price tag, but they have to. That leaves them the pseudo mid-level. I don't think it'll be the full mid-level, will it? Just below it, like somewhere in that $7.5 to $8 million they might have to spend. Give Jazz fans a couple of they need a backup point guard. And they need another wing defender shooter, kind of a 3-and-D type player. Couple of names that the Jazz might be able to pursue out there. Probably aren't going to be tier A guys, probably more B or C guys. But who are a few names the Jazz fans should keep an eye on that they might use the mid-level money on?
Okay, it would be someone like if they sign Mike Conley, then you're staring at someone like Ish Smith to try to be a backup point guard. So you can get him a part of the mid-level exception. So someone like that could be out there as far as getting it. And then also someone like Corey Joseph.
Okay.
Someone like that. You could be out there again where they had, remember, each passing day in free agency, the players have less leverage. It's the most amazing phenomenon, and it's humbling. So maybe on a Monday of the second week of free agency, you can't get this guy. By the following Monday, you can get him because suddenly the offers that they thought they might get, they're not getting.
Is Joe Ingles at a point now in his career where asking him to play point when Conley's out or on the bench is probably not the best move?
That is correct, right. You love Joe off the ball, but not make to make plays all the time. He's 33 years young. He's much better when the ball swung to him on the second side of the floor where he can create off being crafty versus what? Off being what? He gets exposed when he has the ball initially as an athletic ability. When the defense is locked in initially on the pick and roll, he's less effective. On the second side of the floor, when the ball swung to him, swing passes, he gets the ball in the run. He's much more cerebral.
All right, there's a lot of names that are being kicked around as possible trade candidates. Ben Simmons, Bradley Beal, Damian Lillard. I'm going to ask Gordy to give me his best guess of the guy that he would bet his NBA pension on gets moved in a trade this summer and what it would take to move said guy. We'll talk about that and get his list of the day coming up on the other side. But before we go to break, let me remind you, if you've got a plumbing issue at your house, call My Buddy the Plumber. They're great. They'll be out at your house ASAP, diagnosing the problem and then giving you options. Because here's the thing, in life, it's always good to have options. It's good to have leverage like Mike Conley, but it's also good to have options. My Buddy the Plumber gives you options on what you'll be able to do, and their customer service is terrific. They take care of HVAC. They take care of electrical, too. Whatever you need, they can take care of you, but they'll always give you options on whatever your repair or fix might be. Go to mybuddytheplumber.com or give them a call. Set up your appointment today at 801-381-4471. That's My Buddy the Plumber.
Keeping you company and, more importantly, keeping you informed through the middle of your day. This is the Bill Riley Show, presented by Uinta Brewing on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700.
If you're of a certain age, you can't hear this song and not think of Jake and Elwood Blues. Am I right?
That is correct, Bill. Absolutely. Blues Brothers, back in the late 70s.
It was I will say this today. If you go back and watch that today, it doesn't age. The movie itself doesn't age. There's great scenes, and the music in it is fantastic. Aretha Franklin with a cameo in it. The movie itself is actually a really stupid premise, but Belushi and Aykroyd carry it off. And Gordy, of course, being the soul man himself, is here with us. What's your list there over there today?
My list today, Bill, is the valued current players in the NBA that were undrafted. So tonight at 10 o'clock our time, 12 o'clock East Coast time, there'll be a lot of hurt feelings. So tomorrow starts the recovery for the undrafted players. Here we go. The top 15 players that I've ranked that were undrafted that are playing well in the NBA. Number 15, Chris Boucher from Oregon, 2017. Number 14, Alex Caruso, Texas A&M, 2015, undrafted. Number 13, Bryn Forbes, Michigan State, 2016, undrafted. Number 12, Kent Bazemore, Old Dominion, 2011, undrafted. Number 11, Dwayne Dedman, USC, 2012, undrafted. Number 10, Ish Smith, Wake Forest, 2010. Number 9, Kendrick Nunn, Oakland University, 2018. Number 8, Robert Currington, Tennessee State, 2013. Number 7, from Arizona, TJ McConnell, 2015. Number 6, from UNLV, Christian Wood, 2015. Number 5, from Baylor via Utah Jazz, 2015, Royce O'Neal. Number 4, from Arizona State, 2018, Luguentz Dort. Number 3, knockdown shooter from Duke University, 2012, undrafted, Seth Curry. The last 2. From Michigan, 2018, Duncan Robinson. And number 1, by far, the undrafted player that's impacted his team. They won an NBA championship from Wichita State Wheat Shockers, from Kansas, like Bill Riley is, 2016, Freddie VanVleet. one thing about Freddie VanVleet. He has the NBA record for the most points scored by an undrafted player in a game versus Orlando Magic on February 2nd, 2021. This past season, Freddie VanVleet scored 54 points in an NBA game. He was not invited to the draft party at all. He didn't get an invitation. He couldn't find the address back in 2016. Thus, that's my list for the NBA undrafted players. Hey, I love you, dogs.
I feel like I'm doing a show with the Elias Sports Bureau over here with all these nuggets and factoids.
Bill, undrafted.
It's all in that binder right there.
Oh, I love
all
this
that
binder.
information is in Gordy's binder.
Bill,
he's got a binder that would make Mitt Romney jealous.
Oh, I like that.
Did you see what I did right there?
Yes.
Binders and binders and binders.
Yes, I saw
you have
it.
another list too, don't you?
Yes.
Give it to me real fast.
All right, this is the all-time Utah Jazz franchise impactful draft picks, 12.
So this is the power rankings of impactful Jazz draft choices of all time.
Yeah, the Jazz drafted 12. Andrei Karolinko, 24.
Wow.
Number 11, Farrell Bailey at 7. Number 10, Brian Russell, pick number 45. Number 8, Paul Millsap, pick number 47. Number 7, Gordon Hayward, pick number 9. That was number 8. At number 7, pick number 72 in the 4th round at that time, Mark Eaton. Number 6, Darryl Griffith, pick number 2 in 1980. Number 5, Darren Williams, pick number 3, 2015. Number 4, pick 2013 at 27, Rudy Gobert. Number 3, pick number 13 at 2017, Donovan Mitchell. Number 2, picked in 1994 at number 16, John Stockton. And number 1, pick number 13 in 2085, Karl Malone. All these guys are picked have unbelievable impactful on Jazz basketball.
Just so you know, Gordy had John and Carl tied at number 1, and I made him break the tie. So he put John at 2 and Carl at 1. You know who I didn't hear on that list? Raul Lopez. He wasn't on that list. Curtis Borchardt wasn't on that list.
No, they weren't. That's secondary.
Kurt
list.
Snyder wasn't on that list.
That's secondary, yeah. So it shows you that you picked the right guy in this generation, Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. They're impactful. They affect the whole franchise.
Blue Edwards wasn't on that list.
That's right. That was back in 1989, picking Blue Edwards, who became
was
a
that
star.
your first draft?
Yes, first draft, 89. Okay. I've been in 32 drafts as far as either directly or indirectly as far as studying it, and I'm a lucky guy.
So we found out a few minutes ago from Woj that Cade Cunningham will indeed be the number 1 pick of the Pistons tonight.
Very much, and it should be. He's an ultra-talented guy. He'll help the Pistons as far as a recovery right now. He'll make his teammates better.
So I wanted to ask you this on the way out. Key player, we've heard a lot of names being kicked around, superstar names, in fact, or star names at least. Simmons, Beal,
Lillard.
Maybe Lillard. Give me the guy. You give me the guy you're most confident will be moved this summer.
C.J. McCollum.
Yeah, but he's not a star.
Oh, he's averaging 20 points.
No, he's a good player, but he's not in the same league as those guys.
I think they're going to keep Lillard in Portland and try to improve their team by using C.J. McCollum.
So what's Portland do? Do they make a play for Ben Simmons?
It's possible. I mean, it's possible.
Okay.
It's possible. Look, we're going to find out. The dominoes are going to start falling once free agency starts.
Do you think any dominoes begin to fall tonight? Or do you think if a team was wanting to make a trade that perhaps, let's use Golden State as an example. Let's say Golden State's trying to win now, and they want to find somebody to pair up with Steph and Draymond and Clay. Do you think that they would be in conversation with somebody and maybe using 7 and 14 tonight to draft for a potential trade later this week or next week?
Oh, very much. Yeah, we said that was the case then. So that'd be Damian Lillard. They would try to package 7, 14, James Weissman, Andrew Wiggins' remaining contract, which is 2 years left, at $65.1 million, and maybe a future pick to throw in there to try to get Damian Lillard, and that would be a great thing for the Warriors. The Warriors have a mode right now. They're trying to win as we speak. So do the Jazz.
All right, that's Gordy Chiesa, and he's going to watch a little draft and watch. What have you liked in the Olympics so far?
Everything.
Really?
Everything, absolutely everything. There's so many great, incredible stories. The athletes. Sometimes I get too emotional watching these swimmers and gymnasts because how great they are. I absolutely love the Olympics.
I do too. And how about the story today? The story for days was Simone Biles, and she wasn't there. I love the mentality. Next man, next woman up. Suni Lee steps up today and wins the gold medal for the United States. Great story. We'll talk more about the Olympics coming up a little bit later on. Gord, have a good night tonight.
Thanks, Bill. Stay well. Peace out.
Peace out, dog. I love you. However, I've got to move along. Andrew Reinhardt joining us here from Wasatch Medical Clinic. Andrew, what separates you guys from some of the other clinics around that treat ED?
Well, we are using the most studied, I think it's the only proven form of acoustic wave therapy for ED, and we kind of pioneered it. So we were the first ones and have helped more guys in this country with this technology than probably anybody. It opens up and regrows blood vessels. It's not a pill, and a lot of guys are finding relief in the bedroom by improving circulation.
So you do it with acoustic wave therapy, no injections, no pills, none of that stuff. How quickly do guys begin to see results when they're using the treatment at Wasatch Medical Clinic?
Well, a lot of guys report progress as they go. The entire process is only 2 to 3 weeks. You a few 10-minute sessions. And I would say almost daily in here, guys tell us, hey, this is working as I'm going. I'm noticing more blood flow in the bedroom, where I want it, when I want it. And they start relying less and less on the pill until they can eliminate the pill completely.
Now, can they walk in off the street or make an appointment and start straight away, or do you got to have them kind of evaluated to make sure they fit the treatment first?
We would like to have our doctor approve every single person to make sure they're a good candidate. We want to get optimum results here. So we do it for free. It's a 30-minute exam in our clinic. The doctor will do a blood flow ultrasound, and you pay nothing. You can, of course, decline treatments if you'd like, but it's the first step. If you'd like to set that up, you can reach us at 801-901-8000. That's 801-901-8000.
801-901-8000. Visit their website, too, Wasatch Medical Clinic and wasatchmedicalclinic.com. But if you've been battling ED for a long time, there is a cure for you at Wasatch Medical Clinic with acoustic wave therapy. 801-901-8000. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you, Bill.
Quick time out. Back to talk a little football. We're 5 weeks from today. 5 weeks from today, 35 days from the regular season opener, if you can believe it. Scott Mitchell will join me next right here on ESPN 700.
Gym sessions and sweaty summer activities are back, which means more funky smells in your clothes because sweat leaves behind bacteria that causes those hard-to-remove odors. Clorox fabric sanitizer products are ready to zap the stink out of fabrics in your home by getting rid of 99.9% of odor-causing bacteria. Eliminate odors in every load or sanitize fabrics between washes with one of our fabric sanitizer products. Search fabric sanitizer at Clorox.com to learn more. When it counts, trust Clorox. Use as directed.
G3 Assistance through Virginia's community colleges is your pathway to a new future, helping those who qualify pay for school and train for the right career. Right where you are, right now. Get a skill. Get a job. Get ahead. You can learn more at vccs.edu/G3.